Welcome to C Programming Tutorials. This is a production of YouTube channel LearnRama and the Facebook page Awesome C Programming Tutorials in High Def. Please become the fan of the page and also subscribe to the YouTube channel LearnRama. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn about how we can return values from the functions as parameters. Or we'll also learn how to basically pass pointers to variables as the parameters to a function. So it sounds complicated, but it will be very obvious. It's very simple actually, and it will be very obvious in a little bit. Okay, so let's see. We learned in the previous tutorials. We learned how to write functions, and if you haven't watched those tutorials, I would recommend that you watch those first before continuing on with this tutorial. On the screen right now you must be seeing a link to the very first tutorial in this about the functions in this series of tutorials. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if we have a suppose we write a little function which would basically doubles the value of a given number, okay, of a given integer. So we pass an integer to it, doubles the value of that integer and returns back that value. Okay, so very simple program. So far whatever we have learned, we should be able to do it with we should be able to write the program or the function that we want. So let's see. Let's call it I don't know, twice, okay, because it doubles the value. So the name of the function would be twice, and it will take an integer, obviously, because it takes that integer and doubles its value. So say int x, right? And obviously we have to specify what the type of the return value is going to be. In this case, since it's going to take an integer, when it will double it, it will still be an integer, so we will basically return an integer type, right? And then what we do here is typically what we do is we basically create a variable result, and then we say result is equal to 2 multiplied by x, and then we say return result, because now result at this point, after doing this, result has the value of 2 multiplied by x, okay, and return result. And this is perfect program or perfect function. There is nothing wrong with that. But for the demonstration sake, how about we don't create any new variable in it? Can we still do it? Let's see. So we have to multiply x by 2, okay, and let's see, where do we store the value? How about we store the value back in x, okay, like this. X is equal to 2 multiplied by x, right? How is it going to happen? What's going to happen here? As I said before, long time ago, many tutorials back, I said that this is a perfect equation. It's not even an equation. It's basically, it's not an algebraic equation. In algebra, this is an invalid equation, or at least it's not valid for any other value of x other than 0, okay. But in C programming or programming languages, it's perfectly valid, because this equal to is not the equal to that we use in algebra. This equal to is the assignment operator, and what it does is it basically takes whatever the expression is on the right hand side, it evaluates it and then puts that value of the result of that evaluation into this left hand side variable. Okay, that's all it does. So it's not the equality that we learned in algebra. It's basically simply assignment operation. So this is a perfectly okay statement in C. So all it does is it takes the current value of x, multiplies it by 2, and puts that value back into x. Okay, so whatever the x would be, the value of x would be, like for example, the value of x is 3, it will come here to 3, 2 times 3 is 6, and it will basically put the value of x in here, change the value of x to 6, and then all we need to do is to return the value of x. So it will return it by its name twice, okay, as an integer value x. Okay, and how are we going to use it? So let's say int number, okay, is equal to 10, okay, and then I say int result is equal to twice of num. Okay, and then we can basically print the value that twice of %d is %d, okay, comma, this first %d is the value of the variable twice of num, right? So we want to print num here, so num, and then is, and this is the result of the twice of this number, so we have that value in the variable result. So this is a tiny little program that should basically double the value of whatever the value of num is, which is 10 here in this particular case. So let's try it out. F9, and there we go. Look at this, what's saying. It says twice of 10 is 20. So it first computes the value of twice, stores the value into result, and then it prints this statement out. Okay, very simple. Nothing new here, except that we use the value of x to compute the value of x. Okay, now the question is that the thing to note here is that num, we pass the value of num into here, and the value of x became the value of num, and then we change the value of x here. Okay, we changed the value of x here, but that didn't change the value of num, because we printed the value of num here and it kept on printing 10. Okay, and it didn't change it. And why it didn't change it, let me pull up my pen here. It's very simple actually. Sorry. Okay, it's very simple. Why? Look at this. So first thing, I told last time that these are different scopes. This is a function in one scope, and this function has its own scope. Anything defined here is not the same as defined here. But the other point to note is that this num, when its value goes into x, only the value goes in here, a copy of the value goes in here. When you change it, it doesn't change this variable. So this variable in memory was num, and it's an integer. Okay, and this dummy argument is a totally different memory location named x, and the value of num was 10. When we passed that value into this thing, what happens was it basically passed the value or copied that value in here, and when we modified it to 20, it didn't change this value. Okay, so this is why it didn't, the value didn't change. But what if we really want the value to change? Okay, what if we want to write the function that would actually change the value of the parameter itself? Okay, and that's possible, and the way it is possible is by using pointers. And why is that so? Because if you remember, the pointers are actually the variables that point to a memory location. Okay, so instead of passing num, which we end up in passing the value of num, which when is changed in this function doesn't actually change the original value here of this variable. What we need to do is to basically, instead of passing the num itself, we need to pass the pointer to num, which will contain the address of the memory location num, and then modify or change the value here. So we are going to stop here because we are running out of time. So this tutorial is going to continue in the next tutorial. Please give a thumbs up if you really like this tutorial. Thank you so much.